All right, good evening, Canes fans. Peter Ariz here alongside D Money, and we're bringing in the heavy hitter himself, Steve-O from 365, Canes Football 365, Canes Info, and we're live, so Steve will be right back here in a second. But listen, guys, huge commitment tonight as we are doing the instant reaction to Joshua Moore flipping from Florida to Miami, and here's Steve-O once again, but
My
D
bad, guys.
Money.
I can't hear you. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Oh yeah, we can hear you. We had to bring you on, man. This is
we're
a
going
Broward
live,
wide
Steve.
receiver.
So
yeah, we're live. So no cussing, no smoking. We're talking about Broward County's finest right here in the flesh. Steve-O talking about another Broward County wide receiver, flipping from Florida. He did the breakdown on 365 Canes football. Steve-O, man, talk to me. What are you seeing with this kid?
Obviously, we've known that Joshua Moore has been a top target for the staff for a while now, even right after his commitment to Florida. But when it comes down to it, we need an alpha dog at outside receiver. We need that guy that we could just trust with our wholeheartedly to come down with the 50-50 ball. A guy who just catches the ball with his hands. He plucks it out the air with the best of them. Honestly, I've seen it up close now for a couple seasons now, and he brings that element where you don't really get with big players. That smoothness element that you're seeing Isaiah Horton, explode with this season. But being able to be smooth, getting in and out of your breaks, things like that at that size, it means a lot. And he's going to make this spectacular catch. I mean, he's a one-hand catch machine. His hands are probably bigger than this little box that I'm sitting in right now. He can snag them with the best of them.
So just some verified numbers here on Josh Moore. His stats or his stars are interesting. On three's got him as basically a borderline 5-star. 247 has him like a high 3-star. They'll move him up now with his senior year, but 6'4", 205, legit. We saw this kid at the Under Armour camp, and I'd never seen him in pads, but seen him at the camp. He was exactly how you describe him. He caught a slant, kept running through the end zone, and just jumped over the fence right behind the end zone without breaking stride. I mean, natural athlete. And the productivity, he had 1869 career receiving yards and 21 varsity games, 20 touchdowns. And then this year, he's been right on pace, 32 catches, 510 yards, 5 touchdowns. Steve-O, you being in Broward, he goes to West Broward, Josh Moore. Put into context for those who are not from the area, the kind of program he's in now at West Broward and how it compares to like the Chaminades and the St. Thomas's and the American Heritage that people are used to seeing.
Well, one, that's a smaller school, and now with the you don't have to live in the area to go to a school. Like smaller schools are falling off. It's very hard for you to sustain a very competitive program as a public school, as a small public school. And every one of those schools that I can mention, from St. Thomas to Chaminade to Miami Central, everybody and their mama has called his phone to try to get him to leave. He's loyal. They've developed him there really nice at West Broward. Had some injuries that kind of slowed down his junior season. Came back, better than ever. He's a hard worker, but when you think about schools where you get the biggest talent in, you don't really think of a West Broward, but he's that dude. Anybody who understands and watches South Florida football, they know who he is, and they don't mind who he plays for because they know he could do it against everybody. He's not a hype kid. You're not going to see him, transferring to these big schools like they wanted to. You're not going to see him, even though we tried. He's not playing the 7-on-7, with the stuff like that. So he's a guy who's just ready to work. Really good kid. When it comes to work ethic, I think he's going to be just scratching the surface of his ability, to be honest with you, because there's some elements in his game that you can't teach like this right now. If a guy could snatch the ball in the air with the safety, launching at him, that means he just has really solid hands.
Steve-O, one thing that stood out to me when D and I saw him, I believe it was the Under Armour camp, right, D? That's what it was. At all levels, at high school, college, even guys going to the combine, you look at a guy who's built a certain way and you say, man, if he ever learned how to use his body, he's got all the tools. When I saw Moore in person, he plays like he's bigger than anyone who's guarding him, and he already knows how to use that physicality to a certain degree. And, we see it in his highlights here. He has he has some speed to his game too. He's not a 4-3 guy or anything like that. But like when you're that big and you're moving like he is, it's a tough combo. But can you talk about the physicality that he plays with? Because like That's a real skill at his age.
Rewind that last clip and it'll speak for itself. I mean, this is great defense from the defender. I mean, you can't ask a defender to do any better than this. This is what that size and physicality attacking the ball at the highest point does for you. That's great defense. You can't ask that kid to do any more than that. But when you attack that ball with that mindset that it's mine every single time it's in the air, it's a dog mindset. And I know we use the word dog a lot, but I don't use the word dog a lot. And people might say it a lot, but I don't. I think he's a true dog. He's going to attack the ball with and also physicality in the running game. You're not going to see that really much on his highlight tape. But man, if you watch just a West Broward game, you're just sitting there. When they run the football, they're running to his side because he's just going to dominate a corner, or they're going to motion him in. He's just going to smash the DN that's never seen it coming. Like, he's a very physical receiver. I think he complements the room very well.
By the way, shout out to Pete. He's battling through a migraine here to be on live with all you guys. Got the deodorant here, Trenton Breeze saying real G's moving silence like lasagna. That's the Josh Moore recruitment. I will say he was on campus last week, quietly at practice, and kind of kept that quiet. Steve, I'm sure you had that info as well. Kept it quiet, and now bringing him home. Just so people know what you're watching right now in the huddle. This is his sophomore clips. Obviously hugely productive, but he's gotten even better than that. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about, Steve-O, is I know you know a ton of trainers down there, coaches down there, people in Broward. I've been of the belief, and we've talked about this a ton, I know you're on the same page, that when it comes to receivers, the things people don't talk about, everybody talks about the speed, some of the athletic ability. They don't talk about the play strength, just the ability to withstand contact and make the play and get open. And then the intangibles, the work ethic, when people aren't watching, working on your craft outside of those practice hours. We talked about the strength a little bit already with Moore, but how is his work ethic in terms of getting better and working on his craft?
So I've had the pleasure, I train just to stay in shape with his receiver coach at West Broward Kadeem. We're just staying in shape and stuff. But some Sundays he has, his West Broward guys over there in the corner, they're working. And he's not a work till I get it right. He's a work till I don't get it wrong type of guy. And that's my type of, player. It's a kid who, it doesn't matter if he perfected it one time. If he goes out there and it's not perfect one time, he's going to be mad at himself. Like, that's the type of work ethic he has. He had injuries, his junior year, a lot of hip stuff, a lot of other stuff people weren't really talking about, but he was fighting through the play. They didn't want to let his team down. They had to hold him out because they know how special he is. And they didn't want to, obviously that's the adults' decisions in the room, sometimes protecting the kid from himself, but he's that type of guy. He's a dog. He's going to work extremely hard. When it comes to his releases, every single year, he's gotten so much better at it. His top of the routes, way less steps. When you're thinking about a guy that size, it's hard to stop when you're running fast, you're running full speed. I mean, you're 6'5", 210 pounds. You're not a slot guy. You're not my size, 5'8", 5'9", running these routes. So it puts a lot on your knee ligaments, and the way he's improved every single time. Like, he's snapping down in 3, and then the stuff you just can't coach. You can't coach this play.
Yeah,
you can't coach that. That's generational stuff. You see plays like that from like a Jeremiah Smith. Like, that's a generational type athlete making a play like that on the ball.
D, you want to tell the people the story of what we saw, because you
Oh yeah, I already did. No, I already did.
Yeah,
jumping over the fence, man. I mean, that was just unbelievable seeing that in person.
And guys, not to cut you off, D, but like, we're talking about the player, but can we touch on the fact that, again, it's a flip from Florida, and this is obviously what Miami, you continue to win these games, and winning these battles becomes pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, like and subscribe to the podcast, by the way. Appreciate everybody in the comments, reminding me they're better than me. But yeah, that's the Gators had a lot of guys Miami covets in this class. This is one of them. Vernell Brown is another. Ben Hanks is another. Those are 3 premium, high end, top of the board type targets. And Steve, I want to ask you something. Steve, pull up the Gabby clip from this year. So Josh Moore starting his senior year. You haven't seen his full senior highlights, but we've seen some game clips. This was, I believe, against Cardinal Gibbons, right?
Yeah.
So pretty good competition right here, and you could see.
Oh yeah, watch this. I want to say who he just did that to. That's my boy. But ooh, yeah.
Look at the balance there. And then right here.
Yeah.
An elevation on that. So, one thing I've heard criticism of, or people in the recruiting industry saying, is they're not sure about his route running yet. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but when you have a guy like this with this kind of spring in his legs, that he can do that kind of explosive movement, that's just like you said, it's God given right there to be able to burst like that. Can you coach? And if the guy wants to work and has that kind of spring, can you coach him up to be an explosive route runner?
Yeah, but more about just he doesn't have to be an explosive route runner in the sense that you would see X run a route and you're like, oh my God, that's such a great route. Jacoby George, running around like, oh my God, that was so smooth. Really, what I'm concerned about with his route running, or what I would focus on, is his body positioning. How does he, position his body in and out of his routes and his cuts to make sure he can, the defender has to go through his back to get to the football, and you're not going to get through there. So, like, I get it when people are going to be like, oh, he's not a route runner. I'm like, yo, he's not a slot guy. He's not a this guy. He can get out in 3 steps. He can get out smooth. But what I care about is more of his stems so he can position his body. He's a big play threat. Do I care about, oh my God, does he run the sexiest comeback? Man, he's running a fade raw. Like, we got him in the red zone. He's not doing a fade comeback. He's not going to catch that ball at the front pylon. He's a back pylon guy. He's a guy who's going across the back of the end zone on a dig. You don't need to break down and get right, left, right on those. Man, you're doing one cut. That's what we call a one. Man, turn around and look and make sure you're available for every window that quarterback might have to throw it up. You never know. So when it comes to his route running, of course, every receiver can get better. But his releases have gotten better. His top of the route has gotten better. So if they're expecting him to, look like a Vernell Brown or Jacoby or X, like, no, it's just not his game. But his route running could definitely be coached up. And I would care more about his body positioning, maybe his stems, things like that. You're not going to, point out the stuff you see with like shiftier guys.
Yeah, I think back to Brandon Marshall as somebody who he was a quarterback in high school. He wasn't running any routes, but then by the time he got to the pros with his work ethic, he was lining up in the slot and causing problems that way on top of, the fades and everything else that he does. So we're talking about a kid who, from what I understand, is young for his grade. He's been on the radar for a while. He's actually young for his grade. So this guy, what we're looking at now is not necessarily, the finished product. How would you compare him, Steve-O, to somebody like that we both love in Isaiah Horton? I know that's going to be a natural comparison based on his size. How would you compare him to Horton?
I know I mentioned in the review itself is just because it's rare you can find guys who are tall and can jump up and catch the ball. I mean, there's a good amount of those guys around the country, but there's not amount of guys that are smooth. When I'm talking about smooth, is just it looks great off the line of scrimmage. It's no wasted motion. He's not taking a false step. He's not doing an extra move at the line, trying to be pretty. He's getting his 1-2. He's getting his leverage, and he's going. And it's just something about a long strider. It makes everything look so easy, so smooth. It's because he's covering 3 to 4 yards a step. You just saw that last one. The guy is holding onto his ankle. He's spinning over. He took 1 step. He's in the end zone. That was like at the 5-yard line. So when you have that long stride and you could threaten the DB with verticality because they're like, oh my God, in 2 more steps, he's going to be 20 yards. And guess what? That ball's in the air. Then you could snap down, and it just looks so much more smooth, and just really, really helps the offense just work, because you can't ever tell with a long strider. It's hard to get an indicator, is what I mean. Indicator if he's going to drop down, indicator if he's going to cut and go inside the middle. And my thing with him is he's super smooth, but he's also smart. He's really smart. He understands his game. He has great catches away from his body. I hate big receivers that use their big body to catch the football. You have to catch with your hands. So he's a guy who's going to turn around and understand where these windows are at, when I should look. Should I shave off a route, maybe a couple yards early? Maybe these guys who are looking at my film are going to say, oh, that's an ugly route. But I understand. Get to this window now. It's things like that people would not really consider.
So look, Steve, you're dropping a little bit, so I'll just jump in. Broward County been good to the Miami Hurricanes. Seems like that's where the talent is starting to drift. I don't know if it's just geographics or Miami getting too expensive or what it is, but certainly I'm serious. It's hard to argue. I'm a Miami guy, and it's just the talent is coming from Broward County. I remember I saw you right before the Florida game, Steve-O, right in the Swamp. And I asked you how many Broward touchdowns. You said people will score for Broward. You said 3. You said it'd be Restrepo. You said it'd be Fletcher. You said it'd be Jacoby George. All 3 of them scored. How important is it for Miami to continue to control Broward, especially after losing to Jeremiah Smith, probably the best player to come out of Broward County in a couple decades?
Yeah, we can't claim Jeremiah, but at least he got his money in Broward.
Is he Miami Gardens? I did.
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
Miami kid.
Okay.
So I would love to, trust me, I would love to claim him. I would.
That makes it hurt even worse then. Damn.
Yeah, but when it comes to the legacy, right? So Xavier Restrepo, he's now 4th all time in Miami receiving yards. When you look at the top 10, there's Michael Irvin, Xavier Restrepo, Philip Dorsett, Leonard Hankerson, Mike Harley. That's 6 out of 10 that are from the county of Broward. That means you're getting a lot of explosive guys from the crib to stay home. You have to keep that going. You have one who's a Hall of Famer and everybody loves on the sideline. Then you have a couple that had great careers, some of the NFL guys. So, like, look at that list out of the 6 out of the top 10. That just tells you, hey, we have a nucleus here. Let's not screw this up. Then you're thinking about a guy who's just outside that top 10 in Jacoby George, who still has a couple more games left to pad on that. And, guys like Brian Blades who are top 15. I mean, you think about what it means to take a Broward receiver and keep him home. Because you think about all the misses. Besides Amari Cooper, all the misses that went to Alabama, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, these type of guys that were leaving, Elijah Moore, Zay Flowers. A lot of these guys that, were leaving home, Robbie Anderson, that were from Broward, left and going crazy. Now it's time to, make sure we keep coming in.
D, you mentioned earlier Brandon Marshall. I said in one of our group chats that his body type reminded me of Brandon Marshall. I just looked at his numbers coming out for the, I don't know if it was the combine or pro day, but his measurables were 6'3 3/4, so almost 6 feet and 229. So you look at Moore, he's listed at 6'4, 205, 210. I've seen. Once he continues to fill out, I mean, I know speed is always, and keeping guys lean is a big emphasis at that position. But man, I'm not saying they're the same player, but that's exactly what I said earlier as well. And we saw him in person, D. So I mean, he had that wide upper body. I don't want to say almost like a tight end, but because the way he moved is a little different than that, and the way he can contort his body and everything that Steve-O, you've been saying, like the ability to box someone out and then not wait for the ball to come to you. But like, it's one thing to box someone out, but then to go snag it while you're holding them away from your body at that point. So he knows how to do that, which is such a skill at this. I said it before, but not everyone's got that. It's one thing to have the size, but to be able to have those ball skills, whole different story.
Yeah, and he's displayed those ball skills at Miami in this IPF that you guys are chilling in right now. Anytime they did a 7-on-7 tournament, it was must-see TV. Every single coach was sitting there watching because you have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, he performed every single time that he stepped on campus. And I know in Miami's heart, they had to know, like, hey, we have to have this kid. I mean, this man he might have had the best sophomore year I've seen in a long time. And what he does on campus against guys that we're still recruiting very hard against, it's surreal to see him finally now make that decision and become a Cane.
Yeah, it's I could confirm that. Man, talking to coaches, the camp was the first thing they mentioned, seeing him on campus. And this was back when he was like a 3-star. No one was talking about him. And we said on the website, said on the podcast, you guys aren't talking about Josh Moore as the top receiver down here in South Florida, talking about Cortez Mills, Nashon, some other guys. But, certainly from our perspective, meaning Miami's perspective, this guy was, right there at the cream of the crop for what he did as a sophomore and what he did at the camp. Of course, junior year, he had some hip injuries. We're getting a lot of questions about Kobe Young. We're not going to get into the legal dynamics of that, but I wanted to address one of the football things that reminded me of, and we kind of just started talking about it right now. Pete was talking about it, which is since Kobe Young left, we have not had really a guy who's going to go outside his body, catch the ball in the red zone with size. Horton is a very big and very good receiver. I don't know if Horton is necessarily what I'd call a catch radius guy, at least at this point. He has good hands and he makes physical catches, but he's not somebody who's making these basketball type, picking off the top of the rim type catches. At least I haven't seen him do it yet. Steve, you think this is someone that is needed in the room just because he brings something different?
Yeah, no, for sure. You need it, especially in this type of offense where you're trying to kill him with speed. Sometimes when that game slows down, you just need that big boy up top. I mean, I'm just being so honest, and it's more than just him rebounding the ball over your head, him, enforcing his will in the running game, blocking on corners, there's a lot of things you could do. We run so much bubble screens and quick screens. Imagine having a 6'5" guy leading the way, with Francis coming through. So there's a lot more than just him, up topping. But yeah, I definitely think he's that type of guy. As soon as you get inside the 20-yard line as a corner, you have to be on high alert because that fade can come. And it's not even just like a normal fade. He's made some catches back shoulder that, I'm talking about Chad Ocho footwork on the sideline, contorting his body. It's kind of magical. I just think he's a 50-50 ball getter. To be honest with you, it could be a slant route, and it'd be for some odd reason, if it's 50-50, he's going to come down with it. That's more than my thing. Horton hasn't really got the opportunities to show that. But I do think once you have maybe another receiver like that, and you have a Horton and a Joshua Moore on the same field, now a defense doesn't know which 6'4" guy you might throw it up to. So that would actually give Horton more opportunities for that type of thing if they roll coverage over to Joshua Moore.
Guys, we have over 1,000 live right now. Appreciate everyone on. I want to take the time to, of course, Steve-O, plug your page here, 365 Canes Football on YouTube, and then on Twitter at 365 Canes Info. Steve-O already has a full breakdown up here of Joshua Moore. So go check it out, almost 10 minutes here. And he gets into his film breakdowns as he does, all the time on his page. So go check out his work again at 365 Canes Football. And then remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Guys, any last thoughts here before we wrap things up?
Listen, I think this is a major flip. I want to emphasize, go back and look at my old articles from March, February, the beginning of this recruiting cycle. This is someone that Miami prioritized the whole time, unfazed when he committed to Florida. This is someone they wanted badly, major target, and they're extremely happy to bring Josh Moore to Miami where he belongs.
Yeah, this is a major flip. I mean, one coming from a rival is one thing, but you just can't let a kid come out of your backyard and go to a school. If it wasn't us, he probably was going to flip Georgia. I mean, they were after him, full speed ahead. You can't let these type of guys go. If the SEC is all over him, and we have not a hole on the roster, but we could definitely use some more bigger receivers on the roster, that type of game, you just have to make this move. And I'm pretty sure, D Money, heard about it last week, like you said, but, we had 2 wins that Virginia Tech week, and it was just awesome to see.
All right, everyone. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Once again, huge commitment, huge flip. Miami gets 4-star wide receiver, local product, Joshua Moore, flips over from Florida. Kane's been hot on his trail. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out Steve-O's work, and we'll be live again tomorrow. Myself, D Money, and Mike Ryan for our normal Wednesday live. Again, thank you for everyone joining us on a Tuesday night, man. Over 1,000. So that buzz, man, starting to pick up. Bye week, people are a little antsy. So let's see, man. I think more recruiting news. We will see it start to leak out here over the next week or so, because we know those coaches are hitting it hard during the bye week.
Yep, and be tuned for some bye week film shenanigans on Canes Insight, because I have Shannon Dawson 3rd and 4th down review for his calls. It's going to be on the site relatively soon.
Way more fun this year, man. Way more fun this year. I know it was tough the last few years, Steve-O. So we're seeing the light here. All right, everyone, go Canes. See you all tomorrow.